Golden Blue Dude here with you again, and today's video I decided to compare last year's West Virginia team. Remember, terrible, horrible, one of the worst we've seen in a while because we had a bare covered, against our most hated rival Pitt the last 5 years. So their last 5 years against our worst year, and it's not as bad as you think. So we're going to see how our worst team we've had in a long time would have done against Pitt the past 5 years. So first, we will start out with West Virginia, and this is strictly by the numbers. All right. So in 2019, West Virginia was 5-7. On offense, we scored 20.6 points per game. We passed for 248.7 yards a game. Here's the bad stat. We rushed for 73.4 yards a game, and altogether we produced 322.1 yards a game. Now on defense, we were much better on defense. We allowed 28.8 yards a game, keep in mind, against Big 12 offenses. Really good. We allowed 239.9 yards a game for passing. We allowed for rushing 160.1 yards a game, and altogether we allowed 400 yards even a game. So I'm going to leave that stat on the screen so you don't have to memorize it and try to compare it in your head. So we will start out with 2015 Pitt. They went 8-5 on offense. They averaged 28.2 yards, 0.2 points per game. They passed for 190.6 yards a game. They rushed for 186.8 yards a game, and altogether produced 377.5 yards a game. On defense, they allowed 26.1 points per game, 214.7 passing yards per game, 148.8 rushing yards per game, 363.5 total yards altogether. So, taking into account that our stats are against Big 12 teams and their stats are against terrible ACC teams, 2015, this is 2015 stats for Pitt, I will give the win to West Virginia. Bear with me, okay? That's 1-0. We jump to 2016. Pitt was 8-5. On offense, they were scoring 40.9 points per game, passing for 221.7 yards per game, rushing for 225.1 yards a game, and a total of 446.8 yards a game. On defense, they allowed 35.2 points per game. They allowed 333.2 passing yards per game, and they also allowed 119.6 rushing yards per game. Altogether, they allowed 452.8 yards a game. You got to give the W to Pitt in 2016. They were a scoring machine, and that's where West Virginia kind of struggled. We couldn't keep up with people. We were good at defending, but if you could score a lot of points, not so good. All right, so let's jump to 2017. So far, West Virginia is 1-1, our worst against their last 5. 1-1 so far. 2017. Pitt was 5-7 in 2017. On offense, they scored 23.9 points per game, passed for 217.7 yards per game, rushed 148.5 yards per game. Altogether, produced 366.2 yards a game. On defense, they allowed 26.6 points per game, 254.2 yards passing per game, 144.7 rushing per game, and altogether they allowed 398.8 yards a game. I am giving the W to West Virginia. I think that would have been more of a defensive struggle, and that, for me, puts the check mark for West Virginia. You also got to consider the backyard draw is always the last game of the season. When was West Virginia at their best? They were their best towards the end of the season. So you have to take a lot of things into consideration, not just stats. You got to, conferences and when the game happens. All right. So far we're 2-1. Let's go to 2018. For Pitt, on offense, they scored 25.6 points per game, threw for 141.8 yards a game, rushed for 227.9 yards per game. Altogether, produced 369.7 yards per game. On defense, they allowed 27.8 points per game. They allowed 209.3 passing yards per game, allowed 179.1 rushing yards per game, and also altogether allowed 388.4 yards a game. They were 7-5 in 2018 and slightly better numbers in 2017. So in 2018, I will give the win to Pitt. So now we go to last year, 8-5, one of their better records. But what do the stats say? So for Pitt, on offense, they scored 21.2 points per game. They threw for 261.7 yards a game. They rushed for 119.2 yards per game. Total produced 380.9 yards a game. Then on defense, they allowed 22.5 points per game. They allowed 204.5 passing yards per game. They allowed 108.5 rushing yards a game. And altogether, they allowed 312.9 yards a game. So for 2019, I'll give the W to West Virginia. So in my opinion, Golden Blue Dude, I think West Virginia would have went 3-2 with their current, well, not current team, last year's team against Pitt in the last 5 years. Our worst team ever against Pitt the last 5 years. I truly believe West Virginia would have still went 3-2 because it would have been more of a defensive battle, and most of the time we would have won out on defense. There was a few times where they had a great offense and we would have struggled, but 3-2, that is my final answer. That's all I got for you today. Hopefully that cheered you up a little bit, because we all know West Virginia will be much better this year, and the Vic Coney situation is starting to look a little better and better each day. But the investigation's not done, so we gotta wait on it. All right, that's all I got for you today. Like and subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you on my next show. And I have a live show coming up tonight on the Voice of Motown at 7 o'clock p.m. So tell a friend, be there, and I'll see you there. We'll see you next time.